It's very similar what happened to what cults do, right? It's this, I remember part of the processing, right? A huge part of it was this nervous system beast, unleashing the beast stuff, which we'll get into in a second. But another piece of it was learning about cults, learning about mind control. So there were a couple of books, in case you're interested, is Combating Cult Mind Control by Stephen Hassan, I think his name is. The Guru Papers. There was a manipulation course which was great on Udemy. I'll have some links to these. I'll have links to this stuff in the show notes at rageheart.co if you want to get the links. But learning about that helped me see it even more, which was that cults, authoritarian groups, people, so you can even lump into this bucket, spiritual gurus, like a yogi, they all employ a very similar strategy, which is really step one is break down who you are, make you feel like whoever you are right now is not enough. Through gaslighting, or just through messaging. You're not spiritual enough, you're not generous enough, you're not grateful enough, you're too uptight, you're too fussy, you're too angry, you're not angry enough, you're too disconnected from your emotions, you think too much, right? They tell people this. And the whole point, it's not even about what they're saying, it's about the underlying message is that something's wrong with you. Whoever you are is not enough. The more you start to believe that, the more open you become to a new operating system. The operating system of the cult, of the group, of the guru. Because you think, well, clearly whoever I am is not enough. So let me try that. Let me take this new thing on. A lot of religions do this. You can even look at look, I grew up going to church. I have nothing against the idea of God and nothing against religion or people who want to be religious or whatever. But what I see a lot in religion, because I grew up with this, is sex, right? Sex is very often made out to be, it's, if you're doing sexual stuff before marriage or you're doing anything that's outside the norm, kinky stuff, BDSM, sex toys, oral sex even in some cases, something's wrong with you. You're a sinner, right? You depraved, sick, twisted mind that you want to get whipped and spanked. And this conversation just took a turn. But this is what religion does with it. And, the message is, they take something that is we cannot deny, we cannot crush or stop the sexual impulse. It's why we're here, is because our parents and their parents before them and their parents before them had sex. So we have a very strong sexual drive. We cannot shut it down. But what religion often does is comes in and says, those things you want to do, those fantasies you have, they're wrong. They're a sign that you're a sinner. You're an absolute sinner. And we have the answer. Come to church each week, pay your money, believe in Jesus, follow the rules, blah, 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 blah. It's a very, very similar dynamic. I'm not saying all Christians are like that, or all churches, or all religions, but it's a very, very common thing. It's how they suck you in. It's how they suck people in. Make you feel like something's wrong with you. Something, especially it's really good with sex, because sex, you can't stop it. You can't just switch it off. Every person has a sexual drive and probably has different fantasies that they want to do, no matter how much they're in denial about it. And religion comes in and goes, all those things you really want to do, you really shouldn't do them. That's wrong. You're a sinner. You're not going to go to heaven. But if you come to us, we have the ticket. You do what we tell you to do. You believe what we tell you to believe. You get into heaven. It's a joke, really. But it's a very common dynamic. And another example, this is a bit of a rant for me, but another example is you go to where is it? You go to the East. Some people go, well, Western culture didn't work for me, so I'm going to go to the East. I'm going to meditate. I want to escape the karmic cycle of rebirth and death. Death and rebirth. But, and this is all in the Guru Papers, that book I mentioned. It's so fascinating. But it's this idea that in the West we have sin. Sin is sort of a big core concept from that authoritarian systems use to control people, use to control large numbers of people. In the East, instead of sin, we have karma. So if you think about back, well, probably still right now, take India. India is very heavily based around the caste system. I don't know it that well. I think there's 4 different castes. So you have people at the top, people at the bottom, people in the middle. And if you don't have karma, someone might be born, say, really poor and think, look, I want to be rich. I want to be in the top caste. And I'm willing to, shake things up. I'm willing to, whether it's attacking the people at the top, whether it's changing laws, whether it's just doing different things, so I can move to the top of the caste system. But of course, that's inconvenient for the people at the top, right? That's going to threaten their position for whatever reason. They need to have the power and the control over everyone else. So one way to do that is you can, use an army and try and control people. People rebel. Much better to control people, get people to control themselves. How do you do that? You can use sin, but you can also use karma. And if you're at the top and you see someone at the bottom of the caste, the hierarchy, you look at them and you go, look, I know you want to come up to the top, but the reason you're down there is because you're meant to be there. You obviously, in your past life or a set of past lives, you killed some people, you did some bad things, and that's the reason you've incarnated, you've been born into the lower caste. And so if you try and get to the upper caste, if you try and shake things up, if you try and fight what really is, you're arguing with God. Right? God created karma, the universe, whatever you want to call it, Brahman. Karma is an immutable law. You can't argue with karma. And so you see, it's the same basic thing. We get people to accept their place in society. We get them to accept their control by getting them to believe that wherever they are, wherever their position is, it's because of karma, because they did some bad stuff, almost like sin, in a previous life. There's so much is about control. These coaches did it. Religions do it. Governments do it. A lot of the COVID stuff, it's all about fear. If we can make you afraid of a virus or different things enough, you'll be much more likely to accept our suggestions. Wear a mask. Do all these different things. It's about fear. The more afraid you are, the more likely you are to accept control.